How are you guys doing? Today is Sunday, April 3rd, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review yesterday's Elite matchups and performances from Saturday, April 2nd. And of course, I'm going to preview everything that's going on today. And as we enter today's matchups, I'm going to take a quick step back and take a look at where we are as the MLB season is right around the corner. As the March Madness tournaments are coming to an end, we are now down to the national championship game in both the men and women's brackets, as both of the Final Four matchups were played in the men's bracket in New Orleans yesterday. The women's national championship is set up to be played today in Minneapolis, as the national champion will be declared. In the NBA, more and more teams are fighting for playoff positioning. So far, 4 teams have clinched a playoff spot in the West, as 3 teams have been eliminated from playoff contention. In the East, all 10 teams that have qualified for at least the play-in have made it, and only 3 teams have officially qualified for playoff spots, as there are already 5 teams in the East that have failed to qualify for the playoffs. Taking a look at what's going on with soccer teams are going into yet another weekend of soccer as they are getting closer and closer to the end of their seasons. So with that said, I'm going to take a look at what happened with the March basketball yesterday, looking at the 2 Final Four matchups. The first matchup, both of these matchups, of course, took place in New Orleans, Louisiana. The first matchup would be between the only 1 seed left in the bracket, the Kansas Jayhawks from the Midwest. They would face off against the 2 seed Villanova Wildcats from the South. Taking a look at how both teams got to the Final Four, starting with Kansas, they would play their first 2 games in Fort Worth, where they would beat 16 seed Texas Southern by 27, after Texas Southern had to beat Texas A&M Corpus Christi to make it into that round. Kansas would make it to the second round, where they would beat 9 seed Creighton by 7, after Creighton beat San Diego State, the 8 seed. Once Kansas made it to their first weekend, they would beat 4 seed Providence in the Sweet 16, after Providence beat 12 seed Richmond. Kansas would go on to the Elite 8, where they would beat 10 seed Miami in 26, after Miami would beat 11 seed Iowa State. Looking at how 2 seed Villanova made it out of the South, they would play their first 2 matchups in Pittsburgh, where they would beat 5 seed Delaware by 20 in the first round. They would go on to beat 7 seed Ohio State by 10, after Ohio State beat 10 seed Loyola Chicago the round prior. After Villanova made it through their first round, they would face off against 11 seed Michigan State in the Sweet 16, after Michigan beat 3 seed Tennessee. Villanova beat Michigan by 8 in that round before beating 5 seed Houston by 6 in the Elite 8. This came after Houston beat the 1 seed in the South region, the Arizona Wildcats. And in this Final Four matchup, the 1 seed Kansas Jayhawks out of the Midwest, the Big 12 champs, would go on to beat Villanova, the 2 seed out of the South region, the Big East champions. Kansas would beat Villanova 81-65. They would win by 16 after outscoring the Wildcats by 11 in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup in their final game of the season, the Villanova Wildcats were led in scoring by their starting guard, Colin Gillespie. Their senior out of Huntington Valley, Pennsylvania, and the reigning back-to-back Big East Player of the Year, would go on to finish with 17 points and 2 steals in 39 minutes. He shot 6 for 11 from the field, as he shot 5 for 8 from 3 as well. On the winning end of this matchup, the top seed Kansas Jayhawks out of the Midwest region were led in scoring by their starting forward, David McCormick. Their upperclassman, their senior out of Norfolk, Virginia, would finish with 25 points and 9 rebounds in 29 minutes. He shot 10 for 12 from the field, and he shot 5 for 6 from the free throw line. Their starting guard, their senior out of Kansas City, Ochai Agbaji, finished with 21 points in 36 minutes. He shot 6 for 8 from the field. He made all of his attempts from 3. He was 6 for 7 from 3. He shot 3 for 4 from the free throw line. Kansas' starting forward, Jalen Wilson, their sophomore out of Denton, Texas, would go on to finish with 11 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists in 37 minutes. He shot 4 for 11 from the field, and he made both of his free throws. With this win, the top seed Kansas Jayhawks, the Midwest regional champs, and the Big 12 champs will go on to the national championship game, and they would be the first of the 2 teams to advance to it. Looking at how Villanova's faring with this loss. With this loss, the 2-seed Wildcats, the champions of the South region in the Big East, will finish their 2021-22 season with a 30-8 record. Taking a look now at the second matchup, it was the first ever matchup in history between Duke and North Carolina in the March Madness tournament, as the 2-seed Duke Blue Devils would be the champions coming out of the West, and the Carolina Tar Heels would be the team that made it out of the East region. Taking a look first at how both teams would make it to this round, the 2-seed Duke Blue Devils would make it out of the West after playing their first 2 games in Greenville, South Carolina. They would beat 15-seed Cal State Fullerton by 17 in that first matchup. They would beat 7-seed Michigan State in the second round by 9 after Michigan State beat 10-seed Davidson in the first round. Once Duke made it out of that first weekend, they would play their next 2 games in San Francisco, and to make it out of that region, they would beat 3-seed Texas Tech by 5 after Texas Tech beat 11-seed Notre Dame in the prior round. Duke would then go on to beat 4-seed Arkansas by 9 in the Elite 8 after Arkansas beat the 1-seed in the West region, Gonzaga. Looking at how North Carolina made it to the Final Four in their first weekend, they would play in Fort Worth, Texas. They would beat 9-seed Marquette by 32. Then they would go on to beat 1-seed Baylor by 7 in overtime after Baylor won their first game by 36. They would play North Carolina would play their next 2 matchups in Philly, where they would beat 4-seed UCLA by 7 after UCLA won their prior matchup versus 5-seed St. Mary's. UNC would make it through the Elite 8 after beating 15-seed St. Peter's by 20. And in this Final Four matchup, the 8-seed North Carolina Tar Heels out of the East region would go on to beat the 2-seed Duke Blue Devils for the second straight time, as this would be Hubert Davis's first time coaching. This is his first season coaching UNC, and he's already got them to the national championship. And this would, of course, be Coach K's final game coaching for Duke, as he would go on to break the NCAA record for 13 Final Four appearances. But North Carolina would go on to beat Duke 81-77 to advance to the national championship game. They would win by 4 after outscoring Duke by 7 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the 2nd-seed Blue Devils out of the West region would be led in scoring by their starting forward, Paolo Banchero. Their freshman out of Seattle, Washington, would go on to finish with 20 points and 10 rebounds, as well as 2 blocks in 39 minutes. He shot 8 for 17 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and he made 2 of his 4 free throws as well. On the winning end of this matchup, the 8-seed North Carolina Tar Heels out of the East were led in scoring by their starting guard, Caleb Love. Their sophomore out of St. Louis would go on to finish with 28 points in 40 minutes. He shot 11 for 20 from the field, and he made 3 of his 4 free throws as well. North Carolina starting forward Armando Bacot, their junior out of Richmond, Virginia, would go on to finish with 11 points and 21 rebounds as he fouled out in 33 minutes. He shot 3 for 10 from the field, and he shot 5 for 8 from the free throw line. With this win, the 8th-seed North Carolina Tar Heels out of the ACC will advance to the national championship game after winning the East region, as they will face off against the 1-seed Kansas Jayhawks, who are the number 1 seed coming out of the Midwest region. This will be the second number 1 seed that North Carolina will have faced in this tournament. That game is, of course, slated for tomorrow, and looking specifically at when that game is going to be, North Carolina is going to be facing off against Kansas in North Carolina at 9:20 on TBS. As this would be a very momentous occasion for both schools, of course, being blue bloods that made it here. Taking a look at what's going on today with the Women's National Championship, the 1-seed South Carolina Gamecocks out of the Greensboro region in the SEC Champs will face off against the 2-seed UConn Huskies after the UConn Huskies won the Big East, and they are the team that came out of the Bridgeport region. Looking at how these two teams made it to this final game, looking first at UConn, they would play their first 4 games within the state of Connecticut. Within their home city of Storrs, Connecticut, they beat 15-seed Mercer by 45 in the first round before beating 7-seed UCF by 5 in the second round. This comes after UCF beat 10-seed Florida in the first round. In the second weekend, they would play in Bridgeport, Connecticut. In the Sweet 16, they would beat 3-seed Indiana by 17 after Indiana beat Princeton in the second round. In the Elite 8, UConn would go on to beat the top seed in their bracket, the NC State Wolfpack, making sure that it wasn't an all one seed Final Four. Once UConn made it to the Final Four, they would go on to beat one seed Stanford out of the Spokane region by 5 points to make it to this game. And then, of course, looking at how South Carolina was able to make it here, coming out of the Greensboro region, they played their first two games in Columbia, South Carolina. They would beat 16 seed Howard by 58 in the first round after Howard beat Incarnate Word in a play-in game to make it there. South Carolina would win their second game on their home court against 8 seed Miami after Miami beat South Florida in the first round. In the second weekend, South Carolina would play their next two games in Greensboro, North Carolina. They would go on to beat 5 seed North Carolina by 8 in the Sweet 16 after North Carolina beat 4 seed Arizona in the second round. And in the Elite 8, South Carolina would beat 10 seed Creighton by 30 to make it out of that second weekend. And in their Final Four game in Minneapolis, they would beat the 1 seed out of the Wichita region, the Louisville Cardinals, by 13. And of course, this game will determine the team that wins it. And of course, once this after I finish this episode up, I'm going to preview what this means for both teams in the championship preview following this. But of course, this is going to be a very big matchup for both teams. These are the two very storied, very historically acclaimed women's college basketball programs. And of course, by this time tomorrow, one of them will become even more accomplished. Taking a look at what's going on in the NBA, starting off in Philadelphia, the 76ers hosted the Charlotte Hornets. The Sixers would go on to beat the Hornets 144 to 114. The Sixers would win this game by 30 after they outscored the Hornets by 18 in the third quarter, then by 7 in the fourth, by 25 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Charlotte Hornets were led in scoring by their starting small forward, Miles Bridges, out of Michigan State. He finished with 20 points and 5 rebounds in 30 minutes. He shot 6 for 12 from the field, and of course, on the winning end of this matchup, or before I go to the Sixers, back on the Hornets, their elite starting point guard, LaMelo Ball, finished with 13 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 6 turnovers in 28 minutes. He shot 5 for 12 from the field and 3 for 6 from 3. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Philadelphia 76ers were led in scoring by their elite starting center, Joel Embiid. Embiid finished with 29 points, 14 rebounds, and 6 assists in 31 minutes. He shot 12 for 16 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, and 4 for 6 from the free throw line. Their starting power forward, Tobias Harris, finished with 23 points and 5 rebounds in 32 minutes. He shot 8 for 13 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3, and he made both of his free throws on the night. The Sixers' elite starting shooting guard, James Harden, finished with 12 points, 8 rebounds, 13 assists, and 5 turnovers in 31 minutes. He shot 4 for 10 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3, and he made both of his free throws on the night. With this win, the Philadelphia 76ers are now 47-30. That is currently the 4th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they've won 6 of their last 10 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit half a game behind the 3rd place Boston Celtics. They sit 2 games ahead of the 5th place Toronto Raptors. With 5 games left in their schedule, they sit 2.5 games behind the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat. They also sit 4.5 games ahead of the 7th place Cleveland Cavaliers, as they've already clinched a play-in spot. A win in their next game or a loss from the Cavaliers could see the Philadelphia 76ers officially clinch a playoff spot. With this loss, the Charlotte Hornets are 40-38. That is the 9th best record in the East, as they are tied with the Brooklyn Nets for that honor. They've lost 3 of their last 10 games, and in the play-in picture, they are sitting 1 game behind the 8th place Atlanta Hawks. They are sitting 5.5 games ahead of the 11th place Washington Wizards, the first team on the outside of the picture looking in. And because the Hornets have 4 games left in their schedule, the highest seed they can possibly hope for is 7th, but they've already clinched a spot in the play-in picture, as they trail the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat by 10 games at the moment. Taking a look at what happened in Madison Square Garden, the New York Knicks hosted the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers beat the Knicks 119-101. The Cavs won this game by 18 after they outscored the Knicks by 9 in the first quarter and then by 9 in the third quarter as well. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown New York Knicks were led in scoring by their starting power forward out of Dayton, Obi Toppin. The former National Player of the Year finished with 20 points in 31 minutes. He shot 5 for 10 from the field as he made all 9 of his free throws. And on the winning end of this matchup, the Cleveland Cavaliers were led in scoring by their starting point guard, their all-star out of Vanderbilt, Darius Garland. He finished with 24 points and 13 assists in 36 minutes. He shot 8 for 19 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3, and he shot 3 for 4 from the free throw line. Their starting center, Moses Brown, finished with 16 points and 13 rebounds in 30 minutes. He shot 7 for 10 from the field as he made both of his free throws on the night. With this win, the Cleveland Cavaliers are now 43-35. That is the 7th best record in the East as they've won 4 of their last 10. In the Eastern Conference play-in picture, they sit 2 games behind the 6th place Chicago Bulls. They sit 2 games ahead of the 8th place Atlanta Hawks. With 4 games left in their schedule, they are sitting, I guess the highest seed they can hope for is the 5th seed right now, as they sit 7 games behind the 1st seed at Miami Heat for the time being. With this loss, the New York Knicks are 34-44. That is the 4th worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost their last 2 games and they've lost 4 of their last 10. Outside of the Eastern Conference play-in picture, they sit 6 games behind the 10th, the Brooklyn Nets and the Charlotte Hornets, who are tied for the 9th best record in the East. And because they have 4 games left in their schedule, they are one of 5 teams in the East who have failed to qualify for the playoffs this year. They sit alongside the Orlando Magic, the Detroit Pistons, the Indiana Pacers, and the Washington Wizards. Taking a look at what happened in Atlanta, the Atlanta Hawks hosted the Brooklyn Nets. The Hawks would beat the Nets 122-115 just to move up a little bit in playoff positioning. The Hawks would win this by 7 after they outscored the Nets by 17 in the second quarter alone. On the losing end of this matchup, the Brooklyn Nets were led in scoring by their goated starting power forward, Kevin Durant. Their starting power forward, their 2-time NBA Finals MVP out of Texas, would finish with 55 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists in 42 minutes. He shot 19 for 28 from the field, 8 for 10 from 3, and he shot 9 for 11 from the free throw line. Their elite starting point guard out of Duke, Kyrie Irving, finished with 31 points, 2 rebounds, and 6 assists in 44 minutes. He shot 12 for 32 from the field and 7 for 14 from 3. And then with this on the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Atlanta Hawks were led in scoring by their elite starting point guard out of Oklahoma, Trae Young, who grew up watching Kevin Durant play for the Thunder. Young finished with 36 points, 6 rebounds, and 10 assists in 35 minutes. He shot 10 for 24 from the field, 4 for 9 from 3, and he shot 12 for 14 from the free throw line. Their starting small forward out of Virginia, DeAndre Hunter, finished with 15 points and 10 rebounds in 27 minutes. He shot 4 for 7 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, and 6 for 8 from the free throw line. With this win, the Atlanta Hawks are now 41-37 as they have officially clinched not having a losing record for the year. They have a 5-game winning streak. They are tied with the Toronto Raptors for the longest active winning streak in the Eastern Conference. And even taking a look at the entire NBA, they are tied for the second longest active winning streak in the NBA. Only the Grizzlies have a longer one. In the Eastern Conference play-in picture, they sit 2 games behind the 7th place Cleveland Cavaliers. They sit a game behind a game ahead of the 2-way tie of the Charlotte Hornets and the Brooklyn Nets for the 9th best record in the East. With 4 games left in their schedule, the highest seed they can possibly get is 6th, as they sit 9 games behind the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat. With this loss, the Brooklyn Nets are now 40-38. They are tied with the Charlotte Hornets for the 9th best record in the East. They have lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 5 of their last 10. Sitting at the bottom of the play-in picture, they've already clinched the last play-in spot at the very least. With 4 games left in their schedule, they and the Hornets sit 1 game behind the Atlanta Hawks. The highest seed they can get is 7, as they sit 3 games behind the Cavs. They sit 5.5 games ahead of the 11 seed Washington Wizards, as they just need to look forward to the play-in more than likely. Taking a look at what happened in Chicago, the Bulls hosted the Miami Heat. The Heat would beat the Bulls 127-109. They would win this game by 18 after outscoring the Bulls by 18 in the middle quarters to win their 50th game of the season, to become the first team in the East to do so and the third team in the NBA. The Bulls, on the losing end of this matchup at home, were led in scoring by their all-star starting shooting guard out of UCLA, Zach LaVine. He finished with 33 points and 5 rebounds alongside 2 assists in 35 minutes. He shot 11 for 21 from the field, 5 for 12 from 3, and he made all 6 of his free throws. The Bulls' all-star starting small forward out of USC, DeMar DeRozan, finished with 26 points and 2 assists in 38 minutes. He shot 6 for 18 from the field. He shot 1 for 4 from 3, and he made all 13 of his free throws. The Bulls' starting center and former all-star Nikola Vucevic finished with 12 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists in 32 minutes. He shot 6 for 11 from the field. On the winning end of this matchup, the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat were led in scoring by their elite starting small forward out of Marquette, Jimmy Butler, and former Chicago Bull. He finished with 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists in 35 minutes. He shot 7 for 12 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and 6 for 7 from the free throw line. Their starting point guard out of Villanova, Kyle Lowry, finished with 19 points and 10 assists in 27 minutes. He shot 6 for 11 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and he made all 5 of his free throws. With this win, the Miami Heat are now 50-28. That is the best record in the Eastern Conference. They've now won their last 3 games, and they've won 5 of their last 10. Holding the third best record in the NBA. They sit a game and a half ahead of the second place Milwaukee Bucks, who are the defending champs in this league. They sit 7 games ahead of the Cavaliers with 8 games left in their schedule, as they've already clinched a for sure playoff spot. They are sitting 10 games ahead of the two-way tie of the Hornets and the Nets, as the Heat are looking forward to definitely holding a home court advantage for this playoff, for at least the first round of the playoffs going in. With this loss, the Chicago Bulls are 45-33. That is the 6th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've now lost 6 of their last 10 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they are sitting half a game behind the 5th place Toronto Raptors. They are sitting 2 games ahead of the 7th place Cleveland Cavaliers. With 4 games left in their schedule, they sit 5 full games behind the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat. Right now, the highest seed the Bulls can hope for is the 2nd seed, mathematically speaking. And then last but not least, taking a look at what happened in the Chase Center in San Francisco, the Golden State Warriors hosted the Utah Jazz, and the Warriors would beat the Jazz by 4. They won it 111-107. After they outscored the Jazz by 17 points in the second half, they had to outscore the Jazz by 10 in the fourth quarter to overcome their 6-point deficit. On the losing end of this matchup, the Jazz were led in scoring by their elite starting shooting guard Donovan Mitchell and their former all-star starting point guard Mike Conley. Donovan Mitchell finished with 26 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals in 33 minutes. He shot 8 for 19 from the field, 4 for 10 from 3, and 6 for 7 from the free throw line. Mike Conley finished with 26 points, 5 rebounds, and 8 assists in 36 minutes. He shot 10 for 18 from the field, 5 for 11 from 3, and he made his only free throw attempt on the day. The Jazz elite starting center out of France, Rudy Gobert, finished with 14 points, 20 rebounds, and 2 steals in 38 minutes. He shot 5 for 9 from the field and 4 for 7 from the free throw line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Golden State Warriors were led in scoring by their elite starting shooting guard Klay Thompson out of Washington State. He finished with 36 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists in 39 minutes. He shot 14 for 28 from the field and 8 for 17 from 3. Their starting shooting guard, Jordan Poole, finished with 31 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 5 turnovers in 38 minutes. He shot 9 for 22 from the field, 6 for 15 from 3, and he made all 7 of his free throws. And then the Warriors all-star starting small forward, Andrew Wiggins, finished with 17 points and 2 steals alongside 2 rebounds and 3 assists in 33 minutes. Wiggins shot 7 for 10 from the field and 3 for 4 from 3. And the Warriors all-star starting power forward, Draymond Green, finished with 10 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists in 33 minutes. He shot 3 for 5 from the field and 4 for 5 from the free throw line. With this win, the Golden State Warriors are 49-29. That is the third best record in the Western Conference and the fourth best record in the NBA. They've now won 3 of their last 10 games. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they sit 6 games behind the second-place Memphis Grizzlies. They sit a game ahead of the fourth-place Dallas Mavericks as they have 4 games left in their schedule. They cannot go any higher than the third seed that they're in as they sit 13.5 games behind the Western Conference and NBA leading Phoenix Suns. With this loss, the Utah Jazz are now 46-32. They are tied with the Denver Nuggets for the 5th best record in the Western Conference. They've lost 6 of their last 10 games. In the Western Conference playoff picture, alongside the Nuggets, they sit 2 games behind the 4th place Dallas Mavericks. They are sitting 2 games ahead of the 7th place Minnesota Timberwolves as they are trying to seize a playoff spot. They have 4 games left in their schedule. The highest seed they can hope to get is the 3rd seed right now as they trail the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns by 16.5 games in the season. So that's what the NBA is looking like as we are leading into what's going on today. And of course, because today is Sunday and because there is March Madness going on, the primetime games today are going to be on ABC starting as early as 1 o'clock. At 1 o'clock, the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks, who are holding the 2nd best record in the East, are going to host the Dallas Mavericks, who hold the 4th best record in the West in Pfizer V Forum. Both of these teams have actually clinched playoff spots. The Mavs are currently in their picture sitting a game behind the 3rd place Warriors. The Bucks are sitting a game and a half behind the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat. The second primetime game on ABC will be at 3:30 in the Crypto.com Arena as the Los Angeles Lakers, who hold the 11th best record in the West, are going to host the Denver Nuggets, who hold the 6th best record in the West. The Lakers have lost their last 5 games as they sit a game behind the San Antonio Spurs, who sit at the bottom of the play-in picture. Their opponents, the Denver Nuggets, they've lost 4 of their last 10 games as they sit 2 games behind the 4th place Dallas Mavericks as they're trying to fight for playoff positioning as well. At 7 o'clock on NBA TV, the Toronto Raptors, who hold the 5th best record in the East and a 5-game winning streak tied with the Hawks for the longest active winning streak in the East, are going to host the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat in Scotiabank Arena. The Raptors sit 2 games behind the 4th place Philadelphia 76ers. The Heat are sitting a game and a half ahead of the 2nd place Milwaukee Bucks. And then at 9:30 on NBA TV, returning back to Crypto.com Arena, the Los Angeles Clippers, who are holding the 8th best record in the West and are going to hold the 8th best record in the West, it looks like, are going to host the New Orleans Pelicans, who hold the 9th best record in the West. Even though it's not set, I guess they could move a lot closer with a win here. The Pelicans enter this matchup with a 3-game winning streak, and the Clippers have only won 3 of their last 7. The Pelicans sit 3.5 games behind the Clippers as the Pelicans have set 5 games left in their schedule. And looking at the games that aren't on prime time, at 1 o'clock, the Boston Celtics are going to host the Washington Wizards. At 5 o'clock, the Indiana Pacers are going to host the Detroit Pistons in Gainbridge Fieldhouse, as both of these teams have already failed to qualify for the playoffs this year. At 6 o'clock, the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to host the Philadelphia 76ers in Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. At 6 o'clock at the same time, the Orlando Magic are going to host the New York Knicks, as neither of these teams are going to play in the playoffs this year either. At 7 o'clock, the Houston Rockets, who are holding the worst record in the West, are going to host the Phoenix Suns. The Rockets are hosting the Timberwolves first, in the Toyota Center. The Oklahoma City Thunder, who have also failed to qualify for playoff contention, are going to host the Western Conference and NBA leading Phoenix Suns. At 7 o'clock as well, the San Antonio Spurs, who are holding that 10th best record in the West, are going to host the Portland Trailblazers, as the Portland Trailblazers are trying to fight for their playoff spot, as they've already been eliminated for playoff positioning. Actually, mind what I said. And then at 9 o'clock, the Sacramento Kings are going to host the Golden State Warriors in Golden One Center. The Sacramento Kings, holding the 4th worst record in the West, are still fighting for a play-in spot as they sit 3.5 games behind the 10th place Spurs. So that's what the NBA is looking like, and taking a look what soccer is looking like overseas. Starting off with the Premier League in England, the top team in England, Manchester City, was able to pull off a 2-0 win versus Burnley, as their first goal will come in the 5th minute from their elite Belgian striker Kevin De Bruyne. The second goal will come from their midfielder Ilkay Gundogan. So with this win, they still sit 1 point ahead of second place Liverpool. Liverpool was able to pick up their 2-0 win over Watford at home. Their first goal will come from their Portuguese forward Diogo Jota, and their second goal would be a penalty kick from their Brazilian midfielder Fabinho. So that's where they sit. Third place, Chelsea lost at home to Brentford 4-1. Brentford would actually see a brace from Janelt, as Vitaly Janelt would score after Antonio Rudiger, Chelsea's elite German defender, would score Chelsea's lone goal on the day. With this loss, it looks as though specifically the Chelsea is sitting third, sitting 12 points behind Liverpool, as Chelsea's played one less game than Liverpool at the moment. And then, of course, the team that Chelsea had to face within this round, Brentford, enters this upcoming matchup with the 14th best record in the entire Premier League. So that is what England is looking like. Moving to La Liga in Spain, the top team in Spain, Real Madrid, was able to beat Celta Vigo 2-1. They would get a penalty kick brace from their elite French striker, Karim Benzema. With this win, Real Madrid now sits 12 points ahead of second place Sevilla in Spain. Atletico Madrid is now tied with Sevilla for second place in the table, as they have one more game played than Sevilla. After Atletico beat Alaves 4-1, they would see a brace from their Portuguese forward, João Felix, and they would see a brace from their elite Uruguayan striker, Luis Suarez, as his first of two was a penalty kick goal. Taking a look now at what happened in France, the reigning French champs Lille would end up drawing with Bordeaux. Because of this matchup, Lille is sitting sixth in France. They sit 1 point behind fifth place Strasbourg with one more game played than Strasbourg. This was their opportunity. And then moving up the subcontinent to Italian Serie A, Lazio would end up beating Sassuolo in the big matchup there. They won that matchup 2-1 as they would get goals from Lazzari and Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. With this win, Lazio now sits fifth in Italy as they sit 7 points behind fourth place Juventus, though they've played one more game than Juventus at this point in the table. Jumping to Germany, the reigning German champs Bayern Munich were able to beat Freiburg 4-1 after neither team scored in the first half. Bayern Munich's first goal will come in the 58th minute from Leon Goretzka. Freiburg would even it up in the 63rd minute with a goal from Peterson, and Bayern Munich's second goal will come from their elite German winger Serge Gnabry in the 73rd minute. Kingsley Coman, their French winger, would score in the 82nd minute, and then Marcel Sabitzer, their Austrian midfielder, would score in the 96th minute to put them up by 3. With this win, Bayern Munich is sitting well clear in the top of the Bundesliga over second place Dortmund by 9 points right now. Speaking of Dortmund actually lost to RB Leipzig. Leipzig beat Dortmund 4-1 as they were able to get 2 goals from Leimer in the first half. With this win, Leipzig is sitting fourth in the Bundesliga, sitting 3 points ahead of fifth place Freiburg, and they sit 3 points behind third place Leverkusen. With this loss, Dortmund sits 9 points behind first place Bayern, and they sit 6 points ahead of third place Leverkusen. Speaking of third place Leverkusen was able to beat Hertha Berlin at home, as they were able to score their first 2 goals before Hertha scored their goal in the 42nd minute. So that is currently where all these teams are sitting leading into today. And of course, leading into today to, of course, finish off the weekend, jumping country by country to see how these countries are going into these matchups. Starting off in the Premier League, the big matchup there will be in London as Tottenham Hotspur will face off against Newcastle. Tottenham enters with the 5th best record. A win here could possibly see them overtake 4th place Arsenal. Even though Tottenham has played one more game than Arsenal, this game could temporarily help them. They're playing against Newcastle. Newcastle holds the 15th best record in the Premier League. Taking a look at what's happening in Spain, one of the top matchups in Spain as the second best team in the country, Sevilla, will go to Barcelona to face off against FC Barcelona. Barcelona enters this matchup with the 4th best record in Spain. With a win here, they would be even in points in the table with Sevilla and Atletico Madrid, as they sit 3 points behind Sevilla and Atletico, with 1 less game played than Sevilla and 2 less games played than Atletico. Both Sevilla and Atletico are sitting 12 points behind Real Madrid, as Sevilla has played 1 less game than Real Madrid. A win here would temporarily put Sevilla in second place. And because of goal differential, a win would temporarily put Barcelona in second place as well. So, of course, many eyes are going to be on that matchup. Taking a look at what's going on in France, the French leaders, PSG, are going to host Lorient at 2:45. PSG entered this matchup with the best record in Ligue 1, sitting 12 points ahead of second place Rennes, as they've played one less game than Rennes. So that's going to be a pretty big matchup that many people are going to be looking forward to in France. And then, of course, another big team, Marseille, who's tied for the second best record in France, are going to face off against Saint-Etienne. Saint-Etienne entered this matchup with the third worst record in the country, as Marseille could temporarily jump into second place on the entire table. So many eyes in France are looking there. In Italy, it looks as though the top team that's going to be facing off today will be Napoli. The second best team in Italy sits 3 points behind first place Milan. They face off against Atalanta at 9, as Atalanta holds the sixth best record in Italy. They sit 1 point behind fifth place Lazio. Looking at third place Inter, they're going to go to Turin to face off against Juventus at 2:45. Inter sits 3 points behind second place Napoli, as a win would temporarily tie them and would put them ahead on goal differential, actually. Juventus sits 1 point behind Inter, as a win here would temporarily put them above Inter on the table. Juventus has played one more game in the Serie A than Inter. And then taking a look at what is going on in addition to this, in the bigger matchups that happened in Germany this week happened yesterday. But that's everything that I have for you today, as today is Sunday, April 3rd. We are inching closer and closer to baseball season, as basketball seasons are coming to an end. But I want to thank everyone once again for listening. And after this, I will do a preview for the Women's National Championship game, as one season is actually coming to an end. But I want to thank everyone once again. I hope all is well. And once all of today's exhibitions and matchups are done, I will come back tomorrow on Monday, April 4th. And of course, I want to thank the ESPN, the NCAA, NBA, and FIFA websites for giving me all the facts and figures that I needed, because without them, I wouldn't be able to do this. And of course, last but not least, I want to thank everyone for listening 12:36 minutes. I wouldn't be able to get through this journey day by day without everyone listening every step of the way. I know it's just one piece of an entirely big puzzle, but I do have fun doing this every single day, and I do want y'all to know that. Thanks for listening. I hope all is well. Thanks for listening to my piece, and peace out. I'll catch you with more tomorrow.